Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. Now today we have something a little bit different from the norm. We have a radio, and not just any radio. This is a tube-based radio from the 40s or 30s. I'm not 100% sure. This specific radio was manufactured by Motorola, and this is all real wood. None of this is veneer. So a quick editor's note, this is actually wood, but it's made of this thing called Bakelite, which is a wood resin compound. There's hardly any plastic on this device. Other than the control section, there's pretty much no plastic. And the design on this thing's pretty intricate. You can see they sort of machined out where the speaker is, and they made this little intricate design right here. And I'm not sure about the inside, but the overall casing on this thing is very pristine condition for its age. But yeah, I actually acquired this thing on vacation. We actually vacationed up by Lake Erie, and we visited an antique shop, and this was on the top shelf in the back. Picked it up for a mere 45 bucks, so I think I got a pretty good deal on that. But yes, it uses actual tubes instead of transistors, and I've been looking for one of these for a while. I was looking for the Philco Cathedral radio, but this is what I ended up with, and I'm happy with this, for now at least. Now, I haven't inspected any of the tubes, but I know for a fact I cannot power this thing on because of how ratty these wires are. I'm going to need to rewire this thing, and I'm pretty much out of wire as it is, so I am going to have to make do with what I have. Yeah, these wires are not going to be usable. I'm going to have to rewire this almost entirely, at least on the outside. And you can see here that it actually surprisingly still has the plug head on it. At first I thought someone snipped it, but I guess not. I believe this is, I'm not quite sure what this is, but I think this may or may not be an antenna, because it's just by itself. And then this is power, and then there might be another antenna or something. Like I said, I haven't looked at this at all off camera. I thought I'd experience it with you guys. But it is manufactured by Motorola, and that's all I know. I couldn't find anything online about this. I found one listing for the same radio, and all the listing says is antique radio. So there's basically no information on this radio online at all, so I'm gonna have to figure it out myself, I guess. Before we unscrew this thing and see how it works, I thought it would be important to note that it still has this original paper on the bottom with all the schematic and how to install it and run it and everything, which is useful for repair. If some of the tubes in here don't work, I'm not sure where I'm going to get new tubes. Probably eBay or something. I'll have to find that out in a bit. But yeah, here's some information I didn't know. But I guess it's a Model 59T5, and it's made by Motorola. It kind of resembles one of Philco's radios from the era, with the pattern up here on the speaker and the interface. But other than that, that's all I know. So it may or may not be a knockoff Philco or imitation Philco made by Motorola. But moving on, let's get inside this old radio. Oh, and real quick before we get inside the radio, I just want to mention that I already cleaned off all the tubes and other components, and I tried to get it running, but you'll see here that didn't work so well. So in that previous clip, every time the static would stop, the transformer that was mounted on the speaker was arcing, so I had to replace that bit. And in this next clip, you'll see the radio actually fire up and pick up audio for the first time. Oh, by the way, before I turn this thing on, it's only AM because they didn't have FM, which is, FM is frequency modulation and AM is amplitude modulation. And of course there's shortwave too. The only issue I have with this thing is that when I can't tune it past about 10 on shortwave, and that's just because the string on this thing is so old. It's loose. It just needs a new string basically, because it's almost like a band on here. But if I can rotate this wheel with my hand, and I can go way past 10. But there's nothing past 10 in my area, so that's a project for another day at least. These are the presets right here. Press one, and it goes to the station you want, which is useful, but I'm not sure how to set them yet. But yeah, it's made by Motorola. I replaced the transformer with this one from a stereo, a Magnavox stereo. So this thing's pretty new, and the ground wire I just kind of left dangling. I'll probably ground this to something inside this box. Yeah, let's turn it on. Now it is a bit quiet, and I think the reason for that, I gotta turn this off, it might be copyrighted. Now, it is a bit quiet, and I think the reason for that is because this tube is failing. It's manufactured by this Galvin company, Galvin Corp, which I guess made radios back in the day. I don't think that company exists, or they merged with Motorola, one of the two. But either way, I've never heard of them before this radio. Underneath here, you can see a bunch of interesting things. First of all, the presets are entirely mechanical. So when you press this down, it turns a cog in here. And then that turns this rotary switch almost. And I'm still not sure how to set this. I'll figure it out. It's fully mechanical. Everything on this thing is analog, which is just nothing nowadays is analog. Everything's digital except like sound. But since I live basically in Timbuktu, there's not a lot of AM stations. So what I plan to do is get one of those little transmits AM to your car radio and use that to basically play music through this thing when I use it, just because it's cool to use, but you can't really pick hardly anything up. But that's a video for another day. So I'm not sure what I did, but it wasn't smoking before, and it is now. All I did was put this transformer back in place. All I did was screw it onto the speaker, and it started smoking. That's my tape deck, by the way, if you hear that creaking. I'm not even sure what's in these metal boxes, to be honest, so I think they might be capacitors. Anyways, I'll try to diagnose this, and I'll get back to you guys. Alright guys, basically, I took the casing off of one of these metal towers, and underneath is this component. I'll get a close-up in a sec. I'm not sure what it does, but basically I think I wired the transformer backwards. I'm not 100% sure, but we are going to plug this thing back in, and this time I'm going to record me plugging it in. I guess we'll find out what happens. Alright, it's popping to life. I'm going to watch the component that started smoking. I'm going to cut power if it starts again. Alright, we cut power. So we're going to check what exactly is smoking here. Alright, here we go. Take two. Okay, there is some smoke, but the smoke is less. So we are going to unplug this. So I'm a little bit puzzled on what the problem is with this radio, because it's not this component that I know of. Nothing underneath that I could tell is burnt or even remotely warped or anything, so I'm not really sure what's wrong with it. After further inspection, I may have found a culprit, but I'm not sure what that component is. I think it's a resistor. So this black component here, I believe this was red when we opened this up. I'll have to check the video footage, but I think this is a resistor, and it's not resisting, it's just catching on fire. I'll replace this if I find out what value it is, because it's completely burnt now, so we don't know what value this resistor is. But I believe this is our issue, because I've never seen a black resistor, and everything else in here is like brown or something. Again, I'm not sure what the voltage is. I'm not sure why it caught fire. Maybe it's just old and it reached its breaking point, but I feel like resistors are the last thing you replace in old electronics, even of this age. I know this is like so old that everything basically needs replaced, but if the capacitors are living longer than the resistors, that doesn't make sense. So I think I put it under load more than it should have been. I'm not sure what to do about that. I'm going to figure this out, but it's going to take a while. Alright, well, I try to think of a way to repair the radio. Let's go over the tubes, what they do, and the brands. Alright, this first tube here is just a Kenrad. Alright, this tube, called a Raytheon. I know exactly what this one is. This is a triode. I'm 100% sure about that. And that's because you can tell by looking at the inside of this tube. And the detail that gives it away is the two electron reflectors here. This, I believe, is another type of triode, but with a different design. Anyways, this one is RCA, which I was unaware they've been in the business that long. And the last one is also RCA. Alright, so I clearly don't know what I'm doing. So for now, I'm just going to reassemble it the way I got it. And we're going to put it back in the case and everything. Obviously not like the original cord, but I am going to put everything back where it was. We're going to put it back in the box because I don't exactly know what I'm doing. I'll come back to this, guys, in a later video, and if for some reason I do it off camera, I'll make an update video anyways. But yeah, I'll get this back together. Alright guys, we've reassembled the radio. and I'm not gonna lie, it looks better than when I got it because I cleaned it off a little bit. Please make sure to comment down below and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.